Hey everyone, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. Welcome to NoDQ Live here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Aaron Rift NoDQ. Raw 25 just concluded, and there are plenty of things to talk about tonight I should say. Very interesting show, very polarizing show. I felt like this show was a mixed bag. You had some good moments, some bad moments. It was really uneven. I think that's the best way to describe it. It was an uneven show. At times I felt like this is awesome, and then at other times I thought this is just terrible. This is a really lazy written show, not much effort put into it. At the end of the day, how did I feel about the nostalgia? Again, mixed bag. Some of the moments I liked, some of them I did not like so much. How do I feel about the Royal Rumble on Sunday? I'm bored. I have no interest in the Royal Rumble. I felt like some of the segments were hot, like the beginning. I thought that was very appropriate for this show. You had Stephanie and Shane McMahon. You had Vince coming out. You had the whole deal with the plaque with Shane and Stephanie giving Vince the plaque. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I liked Vince turning heel on the crowd. The crowd, of course, played along with it, doing the asshole chant. And then you had Steve Austin come out. This was very predictable, though. As much as I enjoyed it, it was predictable. Steve Austin coming out. He stunned Shane McMahon. I like Vince trying to say he's old and trying to get out of the whole situation. I thought the whole thing was well done if it was predictable. It was predictable, but I did enjoy the segment. Steve Austin laying out Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon. Very old school, nostalgia feel to it. Cool. I liked it. They were the biggest part of Raw history. Austin McMahon. Very fitting to kick off the show. That was fine. Then we had the Manhattan Center segments, and there weren't really a lot of them. You barely had action at the Manhattan Center. I think you had Bray Wyatt versus Matt Hardy, and I'll get to that here in a few minutes. As King Extreme 81 says, predictable is fine if it's good. You want unpredictable for the sake of being unpredictable? And then he says, you get Mahal as WWE champion. Very good point there. I would have liked to have seen some more surprises on this show. You know, a lot of it was very predictable, and I felt like we really didn't get much in the way of surprises. I feel like maybe WWE made a mistake of announcing too much, you know, announcing all the people that were going to be on the show. I think it would have been better to hold back and save some things as surprises, because watching this show, there was really nothing surprising. Everything was very by the numbers, what you would expect from the company. You had the APA doing their poker segments. I thought there was way too much of that. I mean, as much as I liked the APA, did they really need 3 segments or 4 segments, however many segments they had? And poor MVP, he was on this show, but you would barely notice. He did not even say anything. He was pretty much just there as a background player. I felt bad. Like, why even bother bringing in MVP if you're not going to have him really do anything? Kanan Knight says a bunch of the legends didn't even show up. I'm not sure who showed up or not. The only one I can think of is Sergeant Slaughter. Maybe you could mention some of the other ones. And by the way, thank you all for tuning in. For those of you tuning in to NoDQ Live, I appreciate it. Hopefully the connection's okay here, because it looks like something cut out here. Wait a minute, here we go. Now it's working again. I apologize if there are any technical difficulties with this video. No Lita. Jeff was upset about no Lita. I mean, that was a little strange, because you would think that as big of a name she was in Raw history, and since she's been on recent WWE programming on the network, you would think she would be there, and she wasn't. So that was a little strange. Hamp Connell says, why can I not send a super chat? Maybe YouTube hates me. Maybe they're angry about earlier that I hit myself in the head with a steel chair and used profanity. I don't know. People asking about the commercial breaks, people asking about the revival. I will get to that in a few minutes here. No cruiserweight segment, as Cindy pointed out, for the obvious reason, Enzo Amore. By the way, if you guys missed the news, check out NoDQ.com regarding Enzo Amore and what happened there. Is something up with this chat? Because it says I only have 84 live viewers. That's interesting. Were people that upset about Raw that they're not even tuning into this review video, where everyone saw Raw, so there's no need to watch this video? I'm curious why there's only 83 live viewers, but if you're watching this, please spread the word, tell a friend, and let's see if we can get those numbers up. I was hoping for 400 tonight, but I don't know if we're going to get that. Oh, the stream says unlisted. Wow, did I screw up? Holy crap, guys, I think I botched this. Okay, hold on a second. I think I did mess something up here. I think I did not make the video public. Wow, okay. Let me keep talking here so people don't tune out. 1 second, guys. I apologize. I was so caught up in Raw, I forgot to turn the video on public, and that's why we only have 85 live viewers. Holy crap. What a botch. Just give me 1 second here, guys. Dead air. Gotta love the dead air. Botchamania running wild. Let's talk about the Undertaker segment. While I'm trying to figure this out right now, let's talk about the Undertaker segment. I was really disappointed with it. I thought WWE would save the segment for the end, you know? Undertaker was one of the things that people were anticipating the most about this show. They wanted to see the Undertaker. And what happened was he came out and he cut this very cryptic promo. He basically came out there and didn't really say anything. And when it was all said and done, you're like, is he retired? Is he not retired? What's going on here with Undertaker? So yeah, I was really disappointed with that segment. That was one of the big misses on this show, in my opinion. I think a lot of us thought maybe WWE would do something with Undertaker and John Cena or something, some kind of big angle that we would look back. I mean, imagine 3 or 4 months from now, or even later, going back, what happened on this show other than the nostalgia segments that you're really going to remember? What segments on this show set up WrestleMania? I felt like there was nothing really. So to me, that was really disappointing. I thought WWE would shoot some sort of big angle to set up WrestleMania. The video is public, by the way, so we should see these numbers climbing now. I agree with MCGB. I thought Raw 1000 was a better show. I felt like that was more memorable than this show. I still remember, that was what? Almost 6 years ago. I still remember CM Punk turning heel and laying out The Rock to set up the Royal Rumble. That was a hot angle. That was something memorable. We got nothing like that on this show. And I feel really bad for the Manhattan Center people. I felt like the Manhattan Center people got the shaft. Some of those people spent close to $1,000 to basically watch The Undertaker cut a boring promo, a couple of cruiserweight matches. The Miz came out with the IC title, and then you had the DX segment. You had DX come out, predictable stuff, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Shawn. By the way, they looked really old, especially Shawn Michaels. And speaking of old, I hate to say this because I love him and I love Jerry Lawler, but Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler sounded so old on this show. And somebody actually got a picture. It's up on NoDQ.com. Oh, by the way, Hamp just sent in a $2 super chat donation. Yes, the super chat is working. Thank goodness for that. He says he enjoyed hearing JR and the King. I liked seeing them. I thought it was cool to see them again, but man, they were off on this show. And somebody took a picture. JR and the King were falling asleep. What appeared like they were falling asleep during the broadcast. And they just definitely felt a step off. And I thought that that was really unfortunate. I felt Shawn came off as really old. Jose thought Shawn was drunk or something. I'm really curious to see what you guys thought about the show. A lot of negative feedback. I mean, people were saying boring show, mediocre show. Like I said at the beginning, for those of you just tuning in, we got the numbers up now that the video is public. We're at 250. I felt like it was a very polarizing show. It had its good moments. It had its bad moments. I felt the matches dragged, you know. This is the one show where you should make it fast-paced. You should have quick matches and find creative ways to get the legends involved. I did like the ending in terms of bringing in the legends as security, although that really did nothing. By the way, Lee View just left a $20 super chat donation. Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to send them here in the chat room, and I will try to address them for you. Brother Nero says, where was CM Punk? CM Punk was shown in a couple of clips. I will say this. I do want to address this now that I'm thinking about it. And yes, Jonathan, MVP did not really do anything. He just sat there for the poker game segment. I will say this. I like the fact that Triple H brought up Rick Rude in China. I thought that that was really cool. Something he did not have to do, and he did it. He gave them some praise. David says, where was Kevin Nash? Kevin Nash noted on social media that he was not going to be able to make the show because of his recent surgery. He could not travel, and that whole thing, unfortunately, got scrapped for him. But he says he's going to be around for Mania. King Extreme 81 just left a $25 super chat donation for Raw 25. Thank you, King Extreme 81. And Ambrose Long also left a $2 super chat donation. King Extreme says, hopefully these $25 will serve you better than Raw 25. Thank you for your hard work, Aaron, as well as the good folks at NoDQ. Thank you for that. And Ambrose Long said at least Elias and Finn had shining moments. I agree on that. You know, it's funny. Elias actually did get a moment. By the way, Sean Smith left a $2 super chat donation. The angle between Cena and Elias had me confused. So let's talk about Elias on this show. Elias had two segments where he looked strong. Well, at least he looked strong in one segment. You had the backstage segment with Chris Jericho and Elias. You had Chris Jericho wearing the Alpha Club t-shirt. That was really interesting that WWE allowed Jericho to wear his New Japan Pro Wrestling t-shirt on a Monday Night Raw segment. By the way, we just broke 300 for this video, but I already did the stipulation earlier. For those of you that missed it, you'll have to watch the breaking news NoDQ Live from earlier today. I did, in fact, hit myself in the head with a steel chair. And looking back on that, that was a bad idea. I hit myself way too hard. I might have given myself a concussion. No, I'm sure I'm fine, but I think I did hit myself a bit too hard. I got a little too into the moment, and I don't encourage people to hit themselves in the head with a steel chair for views. That was pretty cheap for me to do that. So next stipulation, if we hit 400 off, to come up with something a little less violent. I'm not going to hit myself in the head with a chair again. That's not going to happen. But anyways, back to Raw. I liked the segment with Chris Jericho and Elias. I thought that was cool. Thomas McCarthy just left a $2 super chat donation. I just want to hear you refer to yourself as Aaron. Okay, there you go. Done. I'm sure somebody will take a video capture of that. Somebody on Facebook posted the video of myself being hit with the steel chair. I do have a stipulation for the Royal Rumble. I will announce that in a few minutes here, so stay tuned. Keep spreading the word. I do have a stipulation for the Royal Rumble if certain people win at the Rumble pay-per-view. And I agree, Cindy. I thought the Rumble build-up was piss poor on the show, but it was about the nostalgia. Brain says, did I talk about Undertaker? Yeah, I did. I will recap it again. I thought it was very weak. Giant Mob just left a $1 super chat donation. I did talk about Undertaker. I thought Undertaker was going to come back out. I thought, okay, this promo was so weak, so generic, it really said nothing. I thought for sure Undertaker would come back out at Barclays Center. It didn't happen. So that was disappointing. Undertaker, I think, was probably the biggest disappointment of this entire show. Elias and John Cena, they had a segment. Elias actually got 2 segments on this show. He got the one with Chris Jericho, and then he got the segment with Cena. Elias is basically taking Samoa Joe's spot because of Joe's injury. Some of you might think that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. In the end, Elias will probably lose to John Cena, and some people will say Elias is getting buried. Others will say Elias is getting a rub working with John Cena, doing house show matches. So you can look at it both ways. However you choose to look at it. At least Elias is getting to do something with John Cena, which is more than I would have expected a year ago. So hats off to Elias. He's getting a big opportunity here with John Cena. Will he become a bigger star out of it? That remains to be seen. Anthony says Manhattan Center got robbed. So basically Manhattan Center got Bray Wyatt versus Woken Matt Hardy. They got a couple of cruiserweight matches, and Monstro Mule needs to be banned. And then they got the DX segment, which led to the Revival versus the Balor Club. We had, I'm just jumping ahead here, just talking about these segments as they come along. Just ban the Mule, no timeout, total ban. No DQ Virtue, Mr. David Southworth says, told you, walk with Elias is greater than Rusev Day. I hate to say that. I hate to say it. It's a blow to my ego. I hate to say it that Virtue's correct. Virtue is right. Rusev Day is nothing now. It's all about walk with Elias. I hate to say it. We're almost at 400 viewers, 378. So I might have to do something if we hit 400. So keep spreading the word. Oh, Miz. Let's talk about The Miz. The Miz won the IC title tonight from Roman Reigns. Of course, it wasn't clean. Roman Reigns, he is the top babyface. He's the guy. He cannot lose clean. So it took not 1, but 2 skull-crushing finales. Plus, Reigns hit the turnbuckle, the exposed turnbuckle, I should say, before getting hit with the second skull-crushing finale. And here's an interesting thing, you know, I feel like I have a better, more solid prediction for the Royal Rumble. We just hit 400. How about that, guys? We just hit 400 live viewers. Virtue says hit 400 and fire Kyle. There you go. Well, we just hit 400, so now I got to figure out something to do here. Brian Mills says, what is the one thing you would have booked different and how? That is a very loaded question. I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. I want to go ahead and cover the rest of the segments here. And I seem to be going all over the place talking about things here. And Renegade L2K says, your thoughts on Jeff singing Obsolete? Well, most people did not see it, but you can see it if you go over to NoDQ.com. It was a dark segment. So people watching on television did not get to see Brother Nero, except for when he was doing the poker table segment with the APA, the poker game segment, whatever. Giant Mob says The Miz will break Jericho's IC title record. He's at what, 8 now? He just hit 8 wins as IC champion, and Jericho has 9. I think that's correct. I'm not Greg Cherry, the trivia expert, but I think he's at 8 and he's 1 away from beating Chris Jericho. Jericho's 9, right, guys? I'm not sure if it's. I think it's 9. Yeah, it was 9. Yeah, as I said earlier, the biggest disappointment on this show besides Undertaker was nothing to really set up WrestleMania. I mean, there's practically nothing. And even the Rumble build-up was very weak on this show. Yeah, there was no Undertaker, John Cena angle. Benzilla561 says Raw 25 sucks. Hot Wheels 84 says the Dudley segment made 0 sense, but I liked it. Okay, so here's what I thought was lame about the Dudleys. They just had a run less than 2 years ago. And Ham Connell sent a $2 super chat donation. Did you hear that the Barclay crowd wants refunds? I thought that was Manhattan Center, but I'll get to that here in a second. The Dudley Boyz, that was a disappointing segment too, because we just saw them a couple years ago as the Dudleys. It wasn't even that much of nostalgia. It was nostalgia of nostalgia. Really? That was weak. I mean, I guess the crowd in Barclays Center liked it because they got to see somebody go through a table, but we just saw it recently. It's not like we hadn't seen somebody go through a table from a 3D in 10 years or something. Chase is here. I'm late, but what's up, Aaron? I'm doing good. I mean, I'm talking about Raw here. Mixed feelings about the show. I did like that sign, Member Pyro. Oh, I remember. That was a great sign. That was the best sign of the night, in my opinion. And then that one sign in the Manhattan Center about silk stockings. Can't even say it. It was so long ago. Too bad we didn't have like a Murder, She Wrote sign in the crowd. That would have been funny too. But I like the guys that were cosplaying as Bobby Heenan when Bobby Heenan was trying to get into the arena for the very first Raw. Were they even shown on television? I'm not sure. I mean, they put in that effort and creativity into that. And I don't think WWE even showed them. Those guys were awesome, dressed up as Bobby Heenan, who was trying to get into the arena wearing the disguises. That was great. And of course, I like the Ico Pro sign. I thought that was really cool. But I wish WWE would have done more with the Manhattan Center and maybe had more of the legends. See, I thought WWE was going to have it where the legends were going to mainly be at Manhattan Center. We were going to have like Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, at the Manhattan Center and do all the old school stuff at Manhattan Center. I thought we would have seen more of that stuff. So yeah, it was a little strange. It was a little strange the way it was done. I think it had mixed results. I mean, clearly a lot of people were unhappy with how this show went. John's 5890 says it was a waste of time. TGS, what about the opening segment? I enjoyed it. I did address that earlier in the video. You must have missed it when the video was unlisted and the only people watching were the people that had the link from NoDQ.com and the Twitter account and Facebook. Tony H says, I told you all earlier that Stone Cold would stun Vince. Well, there you go. You called it, man. I mean, it was fairly predictable, even though I did not predict that was going to happen officially. I thought maybe Steve Austin would do something with Elias. But, you know, thinking about it, it makes a lot more sense to have Austin stun Vince. You know, they were the big feud of Monday Night Raw. Cena Sucks 76 says MVP looked different. Yeah, he looked old. The guy looked really old, unfortunately. Yeah, Boston Punk notes here that Eric Bischoff got one of the bigger pops. I noticed that. That was quite the reaction for Eric Bischoff. Billy Pendergrass says, no Austin promo is disappointing. I actually thought that was fine. I don't think Austin needed to talk. He could come out there. The crowd was doing the what chants. You were getting all the nostalgia without Austin talking. It wasn't necessary. Goodfella 182 says, no Vince Russo. Yeah, that wasn't happening. Cena Sucks 76 says, what are you drinking? It's water. It's water. Jeez. Jamie Lee Mack, however, liked the show. He said the 15th anniversary show was better than I thought. James Allen says the Peeps show segment was awful. So let's talk about that. I actually enjoyed that segment. Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins came out. The crowd was booing Jason Jordan like crazy. And I feel like it's working. I feel like the crowd is getting invested in this storyline. Jason Jordan was getting booed out of the building. And then you had the Bar coming out. The Bar, they were basically baby faces here. They were getting the crowd to chant, you suck at Jason Jordan, which the crowd did. And then you had some dissension between Rollins and Jordan, with Rollins accidentally hitting Jordan with a knee. I liked it. I thought it was a good segment. That was like the one thing on this show that got me interested in the Royal Rumble, to see what happens with the Bar against Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan. I liked that storyline, and it was a story. I mean, Plyskin024 says there were no stories in this show, which I agree. This was like the closest thing to a storyline here, with Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins further teasing their dissension. I liked that. Maria says, I hope the Bar win the titles back. Cindy says the women's segment was confusing. We had 2 women's segments on the show, I think. We had one match. We had the 8-woman match with Asuka throwing. This was interesting. So Asuka is the odds-on favorite to win the Royal Rumble, right? So on Raw, we had her throw out the other 3 women. So now she's even more of a favorite. I mean, she's the only one really pushed heading into the Rumble. So if she doesn't win now, the whole thing's really strange. So yeah, I agree that that was confusing. You would think that maybe you would establish somebody else as a threat to win the Rumble match. I mean, really, it's Asuka. It's Asuka and maybe Ronda Rousey if she shows up. Nobody else feels believable at this point. I agree that that was a confusing segment. And then we had the legendary women wrestlers appear. You had Kelly and Michelle McCool and Jacqueline and a couple of others. Tori Wilson, who looked great, by the way. Tori looks like she hasn't aged at all. I mean, I gotta say, Tori Wilson looks the same that she did 20 years ago. That is really impressive. I mean, Tori's one of the few people on this show that looked like she did not age. I have to say Trish looked really good too. Trish looks like she hasn't aged much at all. So that was an interesting segment with some of the older women coming out there. And I'm assuming some of them, like the Bella Twins, will show up on this Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Sean's 5890 says, were you satisfied with the show? Like I said earlier, mixed bag for me. It had good moments. It had bad moments. Mike Palmer says, where was Edge? Edge had a prior commitment. He was unable to make the show. Same thing with Mick Foley. Both of them were unable to make the show. That's unfortunate because both of them were big parts of Raw history. And of course, the really interesting one was Randy Orton. No Randy Orton on the show. Randy Orton's wife did post something earlier today saying he wasn't going to be at the show despite being advertised for the show. So that was really strange. Why was Orton not on this show, considering he was a big part of Raw history? You have Ted DiBiase on this show, who granted is a legend, but he's at every single Legend show, and he really didn't do much on Raw. The Relaxing Noob just sent in a $5 Super Chat donation, says, did not watch the show because the Rockets were playing, but I heard The Rock did not return. He has the best segments. Wow, so even Raw 25 was not enough for you to tune in. That's sad. Yeah, no Rock on this show. Rock was never advertised for this show, so I wasn't expecting him. As I mentioned earlier on the previous No DQ Live, I felt like if The Rock did show up, it would be a very pleasant surprise and a well-done surprise. But yeah, no Rock on this show, and you know, he was never advertised for it, never really rumored for it. I mean, it was pretty much established that he wasn't going to be on the show. Same thing with Hulk Hogan, despite Hogan... Actually, Hogan said he wasn't going to be on Raw. Hogan said that he was going to be watching at home. And again, Hogan really wouldn't have made that much sense because Hogan was not that big a part of Raw history. Despite being a major name in WWE, Hogan really wasn't a big part of Raw as a show. Crimson says Raw 25 or 1,000. I gotta say 1,000. Like I said earlier, at least I remember something from 1,000. I remember CM Punk turning heel on The Rock and setting up the Royal Rumble. What are we going to remember from this show 6 months from now? We might remember the Revival losing. So this is really interesting. Let's talk about the Revival. So as I mentioned earlier, you had DX come out. You had Scott Hall come out. You had the Balor Club come out. And they did the whole Too Sweet big moment there. That was kind of cool. I like that. And then we had the Revival versus Anderson and Gallows. And it was a quick match. You know, Port Manhattan Center guys, they got the short matches. The long matches were at Barclays Center. You had Anderson and Gallows defeating the Revival. By the way, we're over 450 live viewers now. So this is very cool. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Renegade L2K says, your thoughts on the commercial during Scott Hall's entrance. I, like everyone else, was really confused. I thought for a second there that was going to be it. There was going to be no Scott Hall. Raw ran really late tonight. I was thinking they were going to come back from commercial and it was going to be the main event segment with Lesnar and Kane and Strowman. But the show ran extra long. And it did come back. Scott Hall did, in fact, cut his promo. I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but Triple H did reference, I think I did mention it, Triple H referenced Rick Rude in China. I thought that was really cool. But anyways, back to the match. Anderson and Gallows beat the Revival. Very short match. I expected this, you know. I was expecting the Revival to be in the role of Ascension from a couple years ago, getting beat up by the Legends. I did not expect them to lose cleanly in a short match, though, to Anderson and Gallows. So it was even worse for the Revival. They got beat up and they lost clean to Anderson and Gallows. But the funny thing is, like, people were saying, you know, Anderson and Gallows are getting buried. WWE's doing nothing with them. Anderson and Gallows got a clean win here and got to hang with DX and Scott Hall. So Finn Balor and Anderson and Gallows got elevated. Unfortunately, not everybody can be elevated, and the Revival, they got squashed here on this show. Revival will be fine. I feel like they're gonna be enhancement talent. That's their role in WWE. They're pretty much being labeled as jobbers. You know, them coming out saying we're not sports entertainers, we're wrestlers. Basically, WWE's booking them as goofs. You know, they're jabronis, to put it in The Rock's terms. So I'm not expecting too much out of the Revival. I think it was made crystal clear where they stand in the pecking order of WWE. They're basically they're punching bags, and I don't think they're gonna get elevated beyond that. So yeah, if you guys feel like the Revival's getting wasted, you know, it is what it is, and maybe they'll stick around for a couple years. Maybe they'll end up back on the Indies. Maybe they'll end up in Japan, but as far as becoming, you know, a top tag team in WWE, not looking too good for them. So if you're fans of the Revival, then it's not looking good. Tony H says Revival need to weather the storm and stay healthy for a while. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you could argue that the injuries definitely stalled their momentum, and WWE's hesitant about pushing these guys. So I wouldn't say it's too late, but based on what I've seen over the years, I feel like it's not looking good for those guys. Anthony says, R.I.P. the Revival. Dylan says this show was poorly planned and poorly booked. Chris May says, give the Revival 6 months. Sin CK says this show was way too overhyped. Perhaps they were. Mika says Y2J using his Alpha t-shirt. Is that a sign that Omega will be in the Royal Rumble? No. Omega has signed a new contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's going to be there into early 2019. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to be in the Royal Rumble. Jericho's not going to be at the Royal Rumble. He has prior commitments. He's not going to be there. So don't expect that. I'm hoping we will get some surprises. I'm hoping maybe WWE saves some surprises, and instead of doing the surprises at Raw 25, we get them at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Michael says Mean Gene Okerlund looked bad. I mean, a lot of people looked old on this show. That's what happens. Unfortunately, people get old. That's just life. I did think it was a cool segment, though, with AJ Styles. Again, I still think Mean Gene would have been better fitted on the Manhattan Center version. Maybe had Okerlund introduce DX or do an in-ring interview or introduce The Undertaker. I know when Undertaker came out, they had Howard Finkel's announcement, but some people aren't even sure if he was on the show. I believe he was advertised for Raw, so I don't know if he was there or not. I think somebody at Manhattan Center would have to clarify that. We did get his announcement, but I don't know if he was actually there or not. Physically there, they might have just used a voiceover. Steve Herman says he was there, so I'm not sure. Kayfabe Candy S says it sounded like a voiceover. Brain says thoughts on how JR and Lawler were portrayed. I mean, they weren't really portrayed badly. They just they're getting old, and you know, they were falling asleep during the show apparently. Steve-O says I feel SmackDown will have a better anniversary episode. The thing is, well, you know, you have to look at it a different way, I guess. I think on one hand, WWE will not promote a SmackDown anniversary as much as a Raw anniversary, but at the same time, there won't be as much overhype. You know, as the other person mentioned earlier, I feel like WWE overhyped this show so much it was bound to disappoint. Brian Watts sent in a $2 Super Chat donation. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think, you know, somebody earlier asked me about mistakes that they made on this show. I think one of the mistakes WWE made, I think WWE should have not given away so much, you know, save some surprises. maybe only advertise a few legends and let there be more surprises so people aren't seeing things coming. Like, this show felt very predictable. There was really, part of the thing that made Raw so great over the years was its unpredictability. Anything can happen in the WWE. We didn't really get any surprises. It was very predictable, very over-scripted, and it didn't feel like chaos. Armageddon 1914 says you have 440 viewers. What's the stipulation? I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know, but I will do something. I'm not going to hit myself in the head with a chair again. I am feeling good, though. I am feeling pretty good. Now, I don't think I've talked about the main event segment yet. The main event segment was Kane, Strowman, and Lesnar, their typical confrontation. I did think it was creative that you had Kurt Angle come out and bring out the legends, even though the end result was meaningless. Literally, the legends did nothing. They just stood there at ringside. Kurt Angle was so worried about there being chaos on this show, and the legends and the other guys like New Day and some of the other roster members, they were just standing there at ringside. They did absolutely nothing to try and break up the fight. I thought it was going to be chaos where you had like all the guys trying to grab Lesnar. Lesnar would shove them all away, and it would just be complete mayhem. To use my own phrase, the mayhem. But there was really no mayhem. You just had Lesnar come out. You had Strowman power slam Lesnar through the announce table. And that was it. That was the end of the show. So, yeah, it's not looking like a title change. The typical booking pattern. Strowman was dominant over Lesnar, and he was the last man standing at the end of the show. So, yeah, I would be surprised now if Strowman wins the title. It would be a nice surprise. I'd like to see it happen, but I'm not getting my hopes up. I feel like it's not going to happen. I feel like Lesnar's retaining on Sunday. I'm not looking forward to the match. Seems very boring and bland for me. Stephen Osborne says, sign off as Ace Ventura's talking butt for the 400 viewers. That I'm not going to do. I don't have Jim Carrey's comedic abilities to pull that off, unfortunately. Josh just sent in a $5 super chat donation. Thank you guys very much. If I had kids, you would be putting my kids through college. TJS says the brother love stuff was lame. It was all right. I thought that was fine for a brother love cameo. I had really no problem with that. The coach, his cameo was fine. Mike Palmer says people paid $260 to $800 for the Manhattan Center to view the Barclays Center on a little screen. Curtis Butler says hide the bald spot for 400 views. Ouch. That's a low blow, man. Brian says shave off half your beard. I'm not going to do that, but I do have a stipulation in place, so I will address that here in a minute. We have 434 live viewers. I just wanted to mention that. Reminded me of CM Punk. Brian says, I thought we were your kids. Yes, you guys, you are all my children now, to quote the great Freddy Krueger. Was this the first day they acknowledged Paige's injury? No, they did acknowledge it last week. And by the way, no televised cruiserweight segments as expected. No reference to Enzo Amore. The cruiserweight division, for all intents and purposes, is on ice right now. No mention of it whatsoever. No mentioning that the match on Sunday is being canceled. Nothing. No mention whatsoever of the cruiserweight division. There were a few cruiserweight dark matches. I know there was one for sure. There might have been 2 or 3 on the Manhattan Center portion of the show. That's pretty much all the wrestling they got. They got a few cruiserweight matches, like Mustafa Ali against one of the other guys, and that was it. Oh, I did not talk about Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. I think I referenced it earlier, but I did not mention the actual match. So this was interesting because not only did WWE give away this match instead of saving it, this could have replaced the Cruiserweight match on the pay-per-view. If WWE needs time to fill now, they could have put this match at the very least, after all this hype, they could have done the match on the pay-per-view, but no match on the pay-per-view. and it was a clean win for Bray Wyatt. So Woken Matt Hardy is pretty much DOA now, you know. I felt like, yeah, if Matt Hardy won, people would say Bray Wyatt was buried. But still, it feels like, what's the point of this feud even continuing now? Bray Wyatt won. End of story. That's it. Where do you go from here? I thought it was completely lame just to give it away on this Raw and have a decisive finish. Why do I care now? What is there to care about with this feud? I thought that was just very lame. You know, I thought that they should have done something to keep the feud going or save it for a pay-per-view or anything besides just blowing off this feud in one match. I mean, that's what it felt like to me. Chase says maybe he will take the character even further. I guess. I mean, what else do you do at this point? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to do some sort of final deletion type match at some point. I could see WWE doing that, where they'll have Matt Hardy versus Bray Wyatt in the compound with Senor Benjamin and Maxwell and all that stuff. Psycho Jet Black says, will you ever quit NoDQ? No plans to quit anytime soon. As long as you guys got my back, I will be doing this, and I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun here. Like I said, you guys, if I had kids, you'd be putting my kids through college. Kayfabe Candy Ass says the match, if they do have it, will be so bad like House of Horrors. There you go. So people don't really have much hope on this. I mean, that's sad right there. Where was Al Snow? Al Snow would have been a good surprise. Is he still working with Impact Wrestling? I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head. But Al Snow would have been a nice addition to the show with the mannequin head. No Ken Shamrock. I was pitching Shamrock for months now. No Gangrel. You know, it would have been nice to have seen a couple of Attitude Era surprises, guys we never see. No Hardcore Holly, no Snitsky, no Steve Blackman. There were a lot of cool surprises. No Batista. I wasn't expecting Batista on this show, and that wouldn't have been that big of a deal because we just saw him fairly recently. Yeah, Mick Foley and Edge said they weren't going to be there. No AJ Lee. Wasn't expecting AJ Lee. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was Roman Reigns. You know, Roman Reigns lost the IC title, and now I feel like he's going to win. Even though it's been rumored that with the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view being Raw, that a SmackDown superstar would win the Rumble. The thing about Roman Reigns, you have to keep this in mind. Every time Roman Reigns loses, he always immediately gets his win back. It almost happens immediately. You know, Roman Reigns cannot look too weak. He has to look strong. He has to bounce back, and he has to bounce back quickly. If you look at the history of Roman Reigns in WWE, every time he loses a big match, right away, he has to win again in a big, big fashion. In a big way. So I'm wondering if Roman's going to win now. I have this sneaking suspicion he's going to win. I'll see what happens on SmackDown Live. See if they set up anything with anybody else being a favorite to win. Here's my prediction. I think Roman Reigns is going to win. But I'd like to see somebody new win. Hold that thought. Second City Entertainment left a $2 Super Chat donation. What is the point of losing the IC title then? Because main eventers don't hold the IC title. That's why. You know, it was just a temporary thing when Miz went off to do his movie, give Roman Reigns something to do, and now that WrestleMania season is coming up, Reigns is getting back into the main event picture. It is what it is. So he's got to drop that mid-card title. That's all it was. Here's what I'm going to do. If Dolph Ziggler, Shinsuke Nakamura, Shin as I like to call him, or Finn Balor win the Royal Rumble match, I will shave my head bald, but keep the beard. I did do this a while back as a joke. I shaved the head, I kept the beard for a photo, and then I shaved off the beard. I will keep the beard and have a shaved head if Finn Balor, Nakamura, or Dolph Ziggler win the Royal Rumble. So there you go. That is my stipulation for the Royal Rumble. Yes, Breaking Bad style. I will be a total badass if that happens. I will keep it for at least a week. So there'll be No DQ Live, at least 2 episodes, and then a couple of No DQ videos. I'll go at least a full week with that look. Maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'll like it. Who knows? I'll tell you what, Fastlane 316. If Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble, I will shave my eyebrows. There you go. I will shave my eyebrows if Daniel Bryan wins the Royal Rumble. So there you go. You guys have it. It is official. I have made my stipulations for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. TJS says, choppy your pee-pee. Where was Val Venus? Val Venus should have been on this show. What a ripoff. I mean, I like The Godfather and all, but he's been on shows before. We never get to see Val Venus. I'm disappointed. No Val Venus. No choppy pee-pee. Okay, this Mopag, let's ban that guy. He spelled my name wrong. That's unacceptable. Ban that guy. No Rikishi. Okay, that was really weird. Where was Rikishi on this show? You have the Usos. The Usos were on this show. They could have done like a tag match or something. I know Usos are on SmackDown, but you could have had the Usos with Rikishi. Implement the legends. Do something fun. It would have been cool to have the Usos dancing with their father on Raw 25. People ask, what would have I have done? I would have had Rikishi dance with the Usos in the ring. That would have been very entertaining. That would have been a fun moment. Father and sons having a special moment at Raw 25. I would have done that. Jason says Vince thought the crowd was chanting CM Punk. I'm not sure. Was that what he was thinking? I don't think there were any CM Punk chants on this show. Marco says, did Sergeant Slaughter make an appearance? Actually, he did not. I think Sergeant Slaughter was the one guy that was advertised that did not appear at all. Which, you know, I'm fine with, because other than the whole commissioner thing, Slaughter really didn't do a lot in the history of Monday Night Raw. You know, a couple years there, he was doing his thing. No RVD on this show. I mean, RVD would have been a cool surprise for the 25th Raw. I would have liked to have seen the legends actually wrestle a little bit, even though, you know, a lot of them can't really do much these days. But, maybe some mixed tag team matches with, you know, a legend and a couple of the current guys. I would have liked to have seen more from the legends and just more creativity on this show, instead of, hey, we got to do an APA segment, let's just throw all the guys in that, and then we'll have DX come out, do their usual thing. It was fairly predictable and nothing really surprising. Beach Ball is back. Yeah, we did see an appearance from the Beach Ball, and, you know, that was cool and all, but John Cena made a reference to it. Second City Entertainment said, did Raw 25 live up to the hype? I don't think it did, but I think it's one of those scenarios where WWE hyped it up so much, it was bound to disappoint. Let's talk about the letter grade for the show. What do you guys think? What letter grade would you give Raw? I'm leaning towards a B-. You know, I obviously was bigger than your typical Raw, but I still felt like it could have been better in several ways. So I got to go with a B-. You know, good show, but I think it fell short of being a great show. And for Raw 25, you would expect this to be like an A+ all-time classic Raw, and I don't think it reached that level. I don't think it came close. So I'm going to go with a B-. And you guys let me know what you think. I'm looking at some of the results here. Holy cow! You guys did not like this show. Wow. Okay, wait a minute. I'm looking at the poll results for Raw right now. I'm going to pull this up right now and give you guys some of the results. In the chat room, I'm getting a lot of Fs from you guys. So the #1 vote on NoDQ.com right now is an F-. Wow. This is my first time seeing these poll results. F-, C+, D, C, C-, D+, B, F, D-, B-, and then we have the B+, and then we have the A's at the end. Wow. You guys did not like this show. I'm surprised it's that negative. I thought it was a good show overall. I mean, I didn't hate it or anything, and I think it was better than an average Raw. But, Yeah, I mean, certainly with the expectations, it failed to live up to the hype. But yeah, that's very interesting that people were disappointed with this show to that degree. Maybe some of the people here were from the Manhattan Center. I don't know. The fans were chanting bullshit, by the way, at Manhattan Center. They were not happy about the lack of wrestling. Second City Entertainment said, buyers sell Raw 25 or Raw 1000. Again, as I said earlier, definitely Raw 1000 I felt was a more memorable show. TGS says it felt like a house show. What's a hash show? Hamp Kano says F minus minus. Ryan says the first segment was awesome. Michael Wayne says refund. Jay Ren says I will give it a B+. Darren says a C. The Relaxing Noob just sent in a $7 super chat donation. No Wade Barrett or Sin Cara. They made the biggest impact on Raw. So Relaxing Noob just wanted to get his troll comment in here. Actually, to be fair to Wade Barrett, he was part of the Nexus storyline, which was a big deal for a couple of months. Ben Jones says, I think Bliss looks so weak. Yeah, that's another segment. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair backstage. Charlotte just towered over Alexa. I mean, it was... I like Alexa and all, but man, she looked like a little kid standing next to Charlotte. I mean, that was not a good visual to air on television like that. At the very least, they should have had Alexa maybe wear high heels or something and have Charlotte... I don't know if Charlotte was wearing boots or anything or lifts or whatever, but man, that was not a good visual. You know, Vince McMahon, back in the day... by the way, I have to acknowledge Jonathan sent in a $2 super chat donation. C+, I was disappointed. So there you go. What I was trying to say was back in the day, Andre the Giant would actually stand on a platform when he was doing promos with Vince to make himself look even taller than he really was, to create that illusion that Andre was a giant. When Vince and Andre were doing interviews, Andre would stand on a box to make himself look even taller. Couldn't they have done this with Alexa? Like, have her wear high heels or have her stand on a box so she doesn't look just so tiny next to Charlotte? This was really a really bad idea. I hate to say it. You know, they do bring up that Alexa's only 5 feet tall, but still, do you really want to have that visual that the two women's champions are here and one is just towering over the other one? So yeah, I mean, that was an interesting segment there for sure. Tommy says no Sable. That's interesting too. I mean, Sable, despite what you think about her, whether you thought she was talented or just was a good-looking woman that was in the right place at the right time, she was a big part of Raw history. And, you know, she's married to Brock Lesnar. Where was she on this show? Maybe she just doesn't want to be in the limelight anymore. Who knows? But Renegade L2K says Ziggler for the Rumble winner. Again, like I said, I would like to see it happen. I want to see what happens on SmackDown, though. If Ziggler appears. If Ziggler doesn't appear on SmackDown this week, then I think there's a remote chance he might win the Royal Rumble. I'd like to see it happen, quite frankly. AJ Styles versus Dolph Ziggler at WrestleMania. Dolph Ziggler finally gets his big WrestleMania moment. I would be a fan of that, actually. Hamp just sent in a $5 super chat donation. I gave it a C. I wanted to see more unexpected people like D'Lo, the Hardys, Too Cool, and the Right to Censor. The Right to Censor would have been funny, like just making fun of culture today. You know, I think they would have been baby faces. It's kind of funny. The Right to Censor, if they came out on this show, I think they would have been baby faces because they could make fun of society for being so, you know, just not tolerant of anything. Like they get offended over every little thing. The Right to Censor could represent modern society. I think that would have been very entertaining, actually. Ivory rumored to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, she is actually one of the names rumored, but no Ivory on this show. Right Tackle 52 says, in your opinion, did Undertaker officially retire tonight? I don't think so, because I think it would have been more obvious. I think it would have been more clear if Undertaker was retiring. Chris Levy 13 just sent in a $2 super chat donation. No Mick Foley or Lita. I did address Mick Foley earlier. He had a prior commitment. He wasn't in New York. I think he should have been there, unfortunately, but it wasn't meant to be. No Hurricane on this show. Hurricane would have been cool. I would have been fine with that. James Sunshine says, sorry, Aaron, but this show stunk more than a yeast infection. There you go. That's some strict criticism right there. And Jonathan says, no Diesel or Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash could not make it because of his recent knee surgery. He did. You guys got to stay tuned to NoDQ.com because it was already posted on the site that Kevin Nash wasn't going to be there, that Mick Foley and Edge weren't going to be there. You got to stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. And by the way, make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com regarding the Enzo Amore situation. Very serious rape accusations being made towards him. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. TGS says they were chanting refund because Jinder Mahal did not show up. Thank goodness. I don't even know why he was even mentioned as far as names appearing on the show, because he really did nothing on Raw when you think about it, other than 3MB. Alexander Pershing just sent in a $2 super chat donation. No Santino or Hornswoggle kind of shocked me. I'm a little surprised that we got neither of them, for comic relief. That might have been interesting. No Goldberg on this show. No Randy Orton. The Orton thing, as I mentioned earlier, is really interesting. This show needed Sid, says Barbed Wire. Well, Raw 1000 had Sid. This show did not have Sid, unfortunately. No Rey Mysterio. I mean, you only have 3 hours, so there's only so many people you can fit. Chris May said no Sting. Sting made no sense. Sting was barely part of Raw. He had a few moments, like with the statue. That was about it. No Big Show. Big Show's a little bit interesting. I would have liked to have seen Doink. Doink would have been a nice surprise. I would have liked to have seen a couple of surprises, like I said. But anyways, we have gone almost at an hour here. I am going to cross the hour mark here for NoDQ Live before I wrap this up. So anything else from this show you guys want me to discuss that I haven't mentioned yet? Doink's dead, ain't he? Yes, Matt Bourne unfortunately has left this planet, but you can throw the Doink costume on anybody. Brooklyn Brawler, Steve Lombardi, you could have had him pull double duty. He could have been Doink at Manhattan Center and been Brooklyn Brawler at Barclays Center. Ben Jones says, what is the stipulation for hitting 400? I have no stipulation right now, unfortunately. I'll have to think of something. Right now, I have no idea. I already hit myself in the head with a steel chair today. This is crazy. This has been one of the craziest days for wrestling news and just wrestling talk, period. I did 2 videos today. I did a breaking news NoDQ Live earlier, and now I'm doing this. This has been an hour. This has just been one of the most insane days to talk about wrestling. One of the busiest days in the history of the website. It's been truly a crazy day. No Gene Snitsky. I mean, to be honest, that's not a big deal for me. If Gene Snitsky showed up, I would have been like, not that big of a deal. I would have liked to have seen Al Snow and Head. I think that would have been a cool surprise. Goodfellow 182 says, I would have liked Vince on commentary. Vince on commentary, I mean, I think what he did on this show was fine. Just getting stunned by Steve Austin. You don't need to have Vince in more than one segment. Bret was not on the show. Bret Hart, he had an appointment with his hand surgeon who was flying in from Paris. So that's why Bret was not able to make this show. Crowd chanting one more match at Taker. Yeah, they did. Why, I don't know. Because they're goofballs. I don't want to see Undertaker wrestle again. But, the fans are going to chant whatever they're going to chant, Right Tackle says 52. Right tackle. Well, I'm getting tired. It's late for me, even though it's only 9:19 here on the West Coast. I'm already ready for bed here. Maybe I am suffering the effects from the concussion. or the chair shot. See, I'm just so messed up here. It's a combination of hitting myself in the head with a steel chair and being tired here. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. We're right at about 1 hour here. I better wrap it up now before I just completely just start talking like a complete nut here, a person rambling. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. NoDQ is going to have to start a concussion test policy here. Armageddon 1914 says so many missed opportunities. I agree on that. Let me know what you think. What WWE could have done better? Leave a comment on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel. Let me know what you thought about Raw, what they could have done, how the show could have been better. And stay tuned. NoDQ Live will be back tomorrow night. I will talk more about the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. And of course, we will have Royal Rumble predictions coming up. Check out the videos on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're watching this for the first time, I hope you enjoyed. Please spread the word, subscribe, join the notification squad, yada, 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 all that good stuff. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. Follow me at Aaron Rift on all social media platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow NoDQ, DOTCOM. Thank you guys for checking out the live coverage. And that will do it. Sorry for no stipulation for 400 viewers. Couldn't really think of anything. I never established anything. But tomorrow night, I'll do something. Leave a comment what you would like to see me do. I'll do something special. That'll wrap it up for this video. I will see you guys tomorrow night.